Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning whenever you decide to watch this video. I'm here today with Bo, with Jack, who has decided to join us because of guilt or his dad threatened to beat him, one of the two. And then we have
Can
Mark.
it be both?
It could
Can
be
it be
both.
both?
Then Mark, who's got his own channel. Shadwell.
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 Get it
Shadwell
right,
and
it's
Son.
Shadrach.
Shadwell.
Shad Crack.
It's Shadwell and Simp. That's what his new channel is going to be called, Shadwell and Simp. And so today we're going to be talking about, I'm going to catch some hell for that one a little bit later on. Today we're going to be talking about The Breakfast Club, 1985's coming to age drama / comedy by John Hughes. Which this month, if you're watching these videos, you know we're talking about school, we're more high school related movies. And you can't do a high school related movie without mentioning Breakfast Club, in my opinion. It is the stereotype high school movie.
The seminal high school
Look
movie.
who decided to show up.
Oh, hey, Justin. So, Shadow, you picked this movie, right?
I certainly did.
Why this movie? What in your opinion is why did you pick this movie? It's gonna be one of those days.
Because it literally is every high school ever, from the beginning of time to now, within a few clicks here or there, north or south, so to speak. Bo put it perfectly.
Even
last week he said it's a perfect movie. It's got everything, and we'll dive into it. But yeah, it. I've only seen this movie actually like 2 or 3 times in my life. I've only seen it a couple of times, and it's got everything, and it encompasses the whole 4-year period of our. Yeah, right. You know better than that. It's got everybody pegged, and it. If you came to Earth from another planet and you wanted to explain high school, this would be one of the top 3 things that you would show that alien. This is high school, at least here in the United States.
I think this is kind of high school everywhere. Maybe not in some of the Asian countries, but
we all know how it would be in Asia. Let's not kid ourselves. We all know.
But is it high school now? I went to high school.
What Jackie's going to tell us.
High school before the internet was really a thing in the school setting. I went to high school before kids had smartphones. I was wondering if you made this movie now, if it would just be 5 kids, sitting in a library staring at their phones for 6 hours.
That's a good point. If they would be allowed to have their phones, though. If they weren't, I think you'd maybe get a yes.
Okay. Well,
if they even have Saturday school detention kind of punishment, without everybody freaking out about equity and bullshit.
More human rights.
Well, here's a question for the panel: who here has been, when they were in high school, got detention?
He got a bit more than just detention.
Yeah, I got a lot more than just detention. I did Saturday school a couple of times, but I also moved around a lot. So, and I wasn't shy of telling people to
go pound sand.
Yeah, let's put it that way. I literally walked out of an English class once, and the teacher said, "Where are you going?" And I told her, "There's no cute girls in this class, so I'm out of here."
Of course you would.
Okay.
Go live.
No. You. I don't think anybody understands. Is it possible to be this disappointed in someone? Like,
yes, it's possible.
I didn't know it was possible.
Ask my parents. Trust
Oh,
me, they'll tell you.
trust me, Sport. You're young. There's lots more opportunities.
Life
No,
is
like I thought you
pain.
peaked. Or I guess
So,
the opposite of a peak.
Jack,
Yes.
you're in high school. Have you got detention yet?
No.
No. Good for you. I'm slightly disappointed in you, but good for you.
Drink it, don't smoke. What do? You don't drink.
So does high school still do the whole click? Is it still just the whole the clip? Is the click thing still a thing? The jocks hang out with the jocks. The rich kids hit that. Rich kids are normally the popular kids. Is that still all a thing, or is it more what? What does high school look like now?
I don't know. I can say with certainty that the rich kids aren't the popular ones. I can say, well, there probably aren't that many rich people in the school in general, but still. I don't know. I don't think I've seen that kind of thing. There's a lot of overlapping groups. I mean, pretty much I figured out at this point, pretty much everyone in the school knows, like, you can pick any two people, and they either know each other directly, or the max is like 3 links at most.
Well, I should ask. Do you go to a big high school, a small high school? How big? I mean, what's
It's relatively big for the area. Might be
Well,
the
it's probably
biggest
the
in the
biggest.
area.
Yeah.
No, it might be the biggest in the area, though I don't know about that for sure.
I think other than you, the only person that's been to in high school, you know, is me because the rest of these guys got me beat a little bit on age. I know Shadow went to college during the Stone Age.
There was no college in the Stone Age.
I mean, high school during the Stone Age. But that's not true. He went to Richmond High. That's right. Shadow went to Richmond High. You can see him on Fast Times at Richmond High when he falls out back of a van high on things that only grown-ups should do.
I am life.
I really want to call attention to Justin's latest 2 comments. I think they're very good.
All right, what do we got?
Very true.
His high school at a gun range. That's awesome.
My high school had a gun range.
Mine didn't.
They didn't. It's still actually there, and they didn't actually close it until like the early 2000s, when all the safe school stuff really came out, and they made the high school close the rifle range. But you can still see it on Google Earth. I'll share the link later in Discord.
I want to bring up Hungar's question.
Hungar's question.
Jackie, if you were in that situation, if you were one of the other people of the Breakfast Club, what would you have done when they all started acting like retards?
Well, assuming I somehow got there, it was probably for calling someone. It would probably be for calling someone retarded, and whatever would ensue after that. I don't know. 50% chance I join in. 50% chance I just sit there in disappointment. Maybe call them a couple dozen times.
You know, when he breaks bad, when that day finally comes, it's gonna probably be like epic. You know, like.
Oh, I
You know
will
what I
be
mean?
there when he loses his shit for the first time. So bad. Anyway, so since there's 5 of us, who were you back in high school? Which of these people were you? Were you the jock? Were you the nerd? Were you popular? Well, I guess the jock was popular, but let's just say, let's make it its own little thing. Were you a social outcast because you're just bloody freaking weird? Or were you my man Bender? Who were you?
He was all of them.
Who,
I'll
me?
start with
Yeah,
Bo.
you were all of them.
Right. I had sort of an ugly duckling experience in high school. I started out as like the Brian character,
Yeah.
but I ended up the Andy character. I I was the student body president, and I was a 4-year letterman in track and band.
Ah, gotcha.
What did you play in band?
Mostly the euphonium and the trumpet.
Ah.
But when I was a student body president, I also did get kicked out of the dance. One of the dances that there was a dance every year that the student council sponsored, and I can't remember which was like the back to school dance or something. And
Justin, that is freaking epic. Sorry, I just saw that. That is. Anybody get that besides me?
I think I do.
Wait, so which hedges is he cutting up?
It
I
doesn't
have a
matter.
couple ideas what he thinks.
Sorry.
Oh, so you're saying that you're Edward Scissorhands? And then
Nice,
no,
Justin.
but I got kicked out because the teacher didn't like the music that we'd selected, and I got on the PA, and I said that she was a fascist.
Bass.
Okay.
Who is this person
And
that's
for turning the music off, and I was uninvited for the dance that I sponsored.
Okay, I should start this off better. What year, what decade were you in high school? I don't care about the actual year. I want to know what decade. Bo, what decade?
The 1990s.
All right, I'll move down to Mark. Mark, who were you and what decade did you go to high school in?
Probably straddled between the Sporto and the burnout kind of guy, and then
Really?
yeah, then decade. Well, I straddled 2 decades. I started in '87 and finished up in '91. So
No, that's fair. All right. Shadow?
80s and Bender, obviously.
I don't know. I didn't really think about this question on my own sake. I graduated in the early 2000s. I wasn't very well liked, but a lot of that was just my own doing. So I wasn't popular. I did sports, but I wasn't a jock. At least it was for my high school. I'm smart, but I was lazy in high school, so I never really put myself out there. So I'm not the nerd. I don't know.
So nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, kinda. I mean,
I don't
I
feel
guess-
bad. Some of it don't change.
I guess I was
Well, no.
a
Change on
bender.
some things.
I think it was bender.
Kind of.
Not so much of a burnout, just coming from a rough family. Because the whole there was that scene where what happens to him when he spills the paint in the garage scene.
Yeah.
I've had a few of those.
You got burned with a cigar?
Yeah,
Oh, man.
and cigarettes.
Yeah, my parents couldn't do shit like that physically, because they couldn't catch us. But, they knew how to use words. But that eventually had to go away because they needed me more than I needed them.
I don't know. High school was just kind of weird. I had some friends, but not many. Fell in love, but that was awkward enough because of stupid rules I put on myself. So yeah, I'm gonna say bender just because I was angry most of the time.
No.
Well, that was one of the points of the movie. You mentioned that. I mean, and there's a scene with Allison and Andy, and I think the Brian character, and Brian says, she says her home life is unsatisfying. And Andy says, well, of course your home life is unsatisfying. You're in high school, If your home life was satisfying, you'd never leave. And what I think this movie represents, it addresses in a lot of ways, is this metamorphosis that kids go through and how painful it is. What you've got, especially in those days, you had 4 years to become a creature that was completely dependent. And it was expected that by the time you finished your senior year, you were an independent person. You were expected, move out and go to college or get a job or go out and do something, make the most of your life. You can really see the struggle Even with the Bender character, when Bender has this confrontation with the vice principal in the storeroom, and you know that principal is ready to just beat the cornbread hell out of this, allegedly 17, 18-year-old kid and couldn't do it because of his, age and maturity. And you could really see how scared Bender was. So all these kids are afraid of facing their future. And they have to, and break out of their stereotypes, the jock and the criminal and the princess and the basket case and the brain.
Hey, we never heard Jackie's answer.
Ah,
No, I'm waiting 3 years from now, then I'm going to get Jackie's answer. He's still in high school.
He's in his
And
second
I don't
year.
remember.
So.
I don't remember how do you say ROTC?
JROTC.
Yeah, that wasn't an option in the show. So if I was going to put, who do you think you are in the show in this movie? Which of the group characters do you find yourself to be more like? Jack?
Oh, none.
That's kind of why I didn't ask you, because I figured that was going to be the answer.
And you were right.
We all know when you're going to college because you're doing it now. I mean, not college, high school. Man, I'm tired. Anyways, who's your favorite character? Let's with the basic questions. Who's your favorite characters? I'll start with Bo again. Who was your favorite character?
come on. We just talked about that.
Andy?
No, Claire. Claire's my favorite character.
Claire.
Blonde.
No, Claire's
She's a
your favorite
redhead.
character because for hormonal reasons.
You want to kind of see about how characters evolve and change over the course of the movie.
Yeah.
Some of the characters are almost throwaway because there's either not enough time spent on them or they don't change enough. But if you're looking for the really drastic metamorphoses, you really see that with the Allison character.
Yeah.
Because she spends the first third of the movie not saying anything at all. And
She was pretty cool.
You can see her how she opens up and speaks more and until the very end of the movie when she actually takes her parka off, which you could say is symbolic of her revealing who she really is,
shedding her old skin
instead of wearing that thick parka, which would be great in Chicago outside, but would be absolutely terrible when the temperature inside is around 70 degrees. But no, I appreciate the Claire character for some of those same reasons. And like I was telling Connell earlier that Molly Ringwald was literally 16 when she made that movie, but they managed to dress her 10 years older and make her act, really 15 or 20 years older. She acted like she was almost in her 30s for most of the movie. And the wardrobe with the wraparound skirt and the leather boots really made her appear much more older and mature. And like I said, I'm not ashamed to admit it. She's so beautiful in that movie, it makes my eyes hurt. She didn't age so well later on, but at that moment in time, the way they had her hair done and her makeup done, and it was just really a vision. I don't really care who knows it.
All right. Well, Jack left, so I'll go down to Mark. Mark, who's your favorite character?
Probably the Jack guy that Emilio Estevez played.
Oh, yeah, Andy.
Andy.
Yeah. All right. Any special reasons, or just liked his character?
Just liked his character and liked his story, I guess. I don't know. No real special reason.
I'm going to bounce back up to Jack since he reappeared. Jack, who was your favorite character? And your mic's off. Your favorite character should be the person.
Sorry about that. It was the janitor. He was the best.
Janitor.
He was epic.
No,
Yeah. All right. All right. Damn you. That was my pick.
We know.
Justin, shut up.
Justin being naughty.
What about you, Shadow? Who was your favorite character?
Well, obviously, I can identify with Bender the most, but how about if I put it if I could have hung out with in high school, which character would have been? It would have been Ali Sheedy. Easy. Yeah, the weirdo. I mean, I did. I hung out with girls like that throughout my life. They're more interesting, but they're not, in your face, trying to, get your attention so much, until they, feel comfortable, and then they're just freaking, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And, what they say about crazy? Well, I clearly never learned that lesson.
Okay, I know where you're going with that.
So do I.
That sounds like
I
a
want to
Justin
say
move.
that is simultaneously praiseworthy and cringe simultaneously.
Sorry, guys.
To borrow
She's just, she's just likable. Once you got to know her, she was, incredibly likable. And I didn't even, it's been so long since I saw this movie that I didn't realize that she hooked up sort of whatever with, what was his name, Dave? Andy. And then at the end, the best part, the best part at the end, she steals his freaking Letterman patch.
State patch.
And then when she stole the switchblade and nobody noticed, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
And I think she stole something else at one point,
Well,
not that stealing good, not that stealing's good, but that she could get away with it because no one, she had that stealth thing going on. Nobody notices, and that's what I do. That she was, she's the rogue, and if you're, I've dated fighterly chicks, not a good idea. Religious chicks, maybe.
That's the idea. All other options are cringe. Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers.
But I mean, if you're gonna be an adventuring character, that's the one you want on your side is the rogue. You know what I mean? It's cool to have the magic user on your side, but they tend to have other plans. You know what I'm saying? The rogue.
Oh my God! I wasn't putting them in each class, but now that you started, my brain just kind of went that direction.
You got the fighter. You
would
got
put,
the thief.
The nerd Brian, the smart kid. He's your wizard.
Clearly.
I don't know.
And that makes Claire's either the priest or the druid or someone high up in the church. She probably was. If you think about it, she probably would go on to be a very Christian young lady.
That's some serious wishful thinking with who she hooked up within the movie with.
Oh, you clearly know nothing about preacher's daughters. You clearly know nothing about preacher's daughters.
You clearly never talked to Shadwell before. I think, Connell, you have been kidnapped by aliens. Not aliens. You have been replaced by rabbits, much like Shadwell has. And now you've just forgotten everything about him because clearly you've never heard anything about our family.
Well, no, I've drank and slept since the last time we've had this conversation.
Oh, good point.
I want to say the janitor. I thought the janitor was just freaking awesome. He was the most, I don't want to say down to earth, but the most real person in this movie that wasn't like driving their theme.
Did anybody watch? Did you watch the cut scene? Which is it was the extended scene of how the janitor explains how he became the janitor.
No, I didn't catch that.
Well, it's on YouTube, and so there's a longer version of that scene where Bender asks him how he became the custodian, and said, "Why do you want to know?" Well, because Andy has an interest in the custodial arts. Now, that's actually a really deep insult. There's a scene where Andy says, "I wish my knee would give out, so I would find out what real life is like." Well, if Andy's knee goes out, he becomes the janitor, right? Because he loses his talent and the janitor who was the man of the year in 1969. But there's a scene where he says, "Look, here's how you become the janitor. You screw up when you're 20, you screw up in your 30s, and when you're done screwing up, you become the janitor." So that's sort of a clarion call to really any one of the group, but especially the Bender character and the Andy character, because they're the ones most likely to end up with a solid career in the custodial arts.
I don't know. I see Bender becoming a lawyer or needing a lawyer, one of the two. I like.
That's funny.
I don't know. I kind of like them all for different reasons, but my favorite was probably the janitor. I mean, I even felt sorry for the principal somewhat.
Oh, I absolutely felt sorry for the principal. There's the scene, when he gets done giving his 7 detentions to Bender, and we get done with the 7th detention, and Bender says, "Fuck you!" super loud, and you can see the principal. He's just absolutely downtrodden. He's just given up on life. His face is so long, because I get the impression that he really does want to be an educator, and he just really want these kids to succeed. But with Bender, there's nothing he can do that's going to make Bender be a better person. And so he's really sad.
Yeah, the conversation that the janitor had with the principal, where the principal was kind of doing the whole "poor me," the kids just kind of gave up on me,
right?
And the principal, the janitor's like, "No, these kids were always these. The kids are always changed. It's you." And I of all the things that were said in this movie, I think that would probably be one of my top 5, the most truest lines in the movie. The world didn't change, you did.
But that's life, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was probably, a very idealistic, individual wanting to, make the world a better place. And, especially if you think about where he came from. He was, 40s in the movie?
Yeah.
Right? Which means he grew up, in a period of time where people were so much more respectful in school. And then the 60s came along and just destroyed that. He still wanted to do it. He still wanted to do it. Then the 80s came along, and everything it clearly wasn't in his vision. When he got into his field.
Good.
I was about to say, with all the different generations that have been happening, since I just don't think anybody was quite prepared for and I'm not trying to, it's a weird way to put it, but I don't think anybody was really ready for Generation X. The boomers sure as hell weren't. And when, Generation X, it just feels like the whole generation was a bunch of rebels. There was very few, it wasn't like Johnny Boy Scout type personalities anymore.
Mark and I talked about that as the resident Gen Xers in the room, right?
I've been told I'm a geriatric millennial or a Gen X by default, just because.
What it was the way the economy had shifted through the early and mid 70s with the gas crisis and the inflation of the Carter and early Reagan era had really made was the first generation of Americans that by default and essentially raised themselves. And when we raised ourselves, this is sort of what I mean. We weren't feral, but we.
I don't know about that. We get locked out of the house in the summertime and told to get a drink of water out of the garden.
Yeah, I remember those summers.
But you know what? To be honest, I'm glad you brought that up, Mark. So I've done that countless times, and I can say this with absolute honesty. That was some of the best water I've ever had in my whole life. I can remember times drinking out of the garden hose and just being so freaking just overwhelmed by, how good it tasted, how refreshing it was, etc. So yeah, now I wouldn't feed my dog that water, but back in the
Well, when
day,
you had to let it run for about 5 minutes because as it ran through the hose, it would heat up to about 200 degrees
Yeah,
Fahrenheit.
right.
No, it came out
Yeah.
hot. For whatever
Yeah, you
reason,
learn
it
that
came
quick.
out hot.
The garden hose was hot.
Yeah, because the
The
garden
garden
hose
hose
is
got
hot.
baking in the sun.
Yeah, you're
As the
right.
water
Yeah.
passed that garden hose, that water would get up. That water would be almost scalding when it first ran out.
Well, yeah, my mom would lock us out of the house for a while because she'd get mad. You're going in and out, letting all the
Yeah.
cold air out in the summertime, and then in the wintertime, you're letting all the heat out. So she put us in the wintertime, put us in our snowsuits, and tell us to get out there, and then come in at lunchtime, and I'll put your snowsuits in the dryer, you eat lunch and whatever, and then you go back out there. And this is the way it was.
I have friends who have kids. I have kids, of course, but my kids are very different than most. I guess they had me as a father, poor bastards. But no, I know parents out there that basically beg their kids to go outside. There was no begging. You get the hell out of the house. You come back inside when we want. Get on your bike. Go hang out with your friends. Go use up somebody else's AC. Type summers. If you had a pool, you're one of the more popular kids in school. Somebody's playing with a butterfly.
So you're playing with an automatic knife.
Yes.
Come on. Own up if you are. That's fine. I don't care.
Yes.
Yeah, no. My summers were if you had, get out outside. Don't come back in until after lunch or for lunch. We went if somebody in your neighborhood had a pool, he was automatically the king of the neighborhood because he had a pool.
Yeah, best friend.
Yeah. I mean, granted, mine was pool / oh, you got a Nintendo? Let's go play Mario Brothers.
Sure.
But that was I'm a 90s baby. That's where it breaks off. But who here
I was
was
in California. Everybody had all of those. It was oh, you've got X. We're hanging out with you today.
Right.
Which I thought was kind of funny. For all of their different opinions, it was funny watching them all follow Bender to go do a certain activity. I know it was part of it had to happen for certain things to happen in the movie, and you could some people would blame that on the way they acted from that point after the movie. I mean, after that incident, but it was interesting to see how each one was so willing to do that for probably the first time. You guys know what I mean? Did you notice that?
When they all broke, they all escaped the left. No, I won't go back on that one. I remember being in detention once or twice, but the teacher never left the room.
Absolutely. But that's when, if we didn't have that, the movie would break down.
Right.
It was normal, like the cafeteria was where they had our detentions at.
And I actually had a couple of Saturday schools where the teacher, because it was never the principal, which I found kind of unusual. It was never the principal. It was usually the PE teacher who got stuck with it, and they would in fact leave. But there is no way any teacher in the '80s wouldn't have smelled that all the way down the freaking hall.
Oh yeah, the pie.
The cigarette, the weed, all of that, and then they all went off and joined him when he was going to go roll a doobie. The way each one of them sort of justified it, you could see it in their face and their reaction, why they were, just going to go do it. It's just like, I kind of wonder, if that, I mean, for most of them, it was probably their first time, but they were so instantly willing to go do that. I know too many kids back in the day that would have just not done it. You know what I mean? But yet each and every one of them was willing to do that. I found that kind of interesting to watch the justification they had to mentally, portray, with their facial expressions to, then go off and do that.
That I think that some of that is that peer pressure, and not that it was overt. It was more implied. Like at the very beginning of the movie, when Bender steals the screw out of the door closer, and then, so the door won't stay open. And when the principal comes back, none of them snitch him out. None of them state nothing, regardless of their differences in social status or in upbringing or background. They're all going to hang together against the man that they perceive as the vice principal. And I think that when they go up and when they leave, when Bender goes to get the marijuana, and why did they all have to go with him? They could have just stayed back at the library. And, I might have just said, I'm going to hang back, whatever, I'm not going to get busted when you get busted. But for whatever reason, they all decide to go with him. And then when they make the wrong turn through the activities hall back to the library, and they find that the gate is down, and then Bender reciprocates that. He reciprocates by sacrificing himself. Oh, are we all going to get busted? Oh, no, just me. And then he runs to the gymnasium and puts on the one shoe that he finds and shoots hoop until the principal busts him, and he gets dragged into the supply closet. So I was just thinking.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I just think that there is a sort of a not necessarily a camaraderie, but an understanding that we're all in this together first, and then we are separated by our clique and social status after that.
That was pretty cool. He could have, not sacrificed himself, but maybe it was reciprocal after they, each of them, covered for him, when they were, making up, what that noise was. But we'd already determined that, certain characters were certain, character classes. What was Bender?
A barbarian.
I was going to say barbarian.
I was thinking the bard, to be honest.
No,
he's
not charismatic enough, really.
But he had the fighter. He had a little bit of fighter, a little bit of thief, and he had all the info. I mean, like knowing how to take the screw out, knowing how to escape. He had like to me, it seemed like he had a little bit of, he had more knowledge about the real world than any of them put together. They were all.
That comes out when
more worldly. That's the word I'm looking for.
When the Brian character wants to bring the flare gun to school because his lamp doesn't work, and the Bender character says, "I take shop." So he's revealing, his understanding and his background. That he has got, like you said, that certain street smarts.
Sorry, guys, we're getting flood warnings. I can't turn this off, even if I wanted to.
No, we're gonna get an earthquake. It's gonna be, the house is gonna fall apart.
No, flood warning.
Oh no! I thought Brian brought the mind flare to self-delete himself.
Yeah, he did. He brought the flare gun. He brought the flare gun to become an hero after he wanted to show the teacher that he was serious about failing this one project. And anyway, that's another thing. What teacher is going to give you an F because your lamp doesn't work? Is it going to give you a chance to fix it before you submit it again? I mean, that's a hardcore teacher. I don't want that guy.
I think it's because he had waited till the very end, like he had squandered the time allotted for the project.
Well, he did say it was supposed to be an easy A for him. It was supposed to be an easy grade, and that's what I don't like. I knew kids like Andy in high school. Not Andy, pardon me, Brian. Brian is not the valedictorian. Brian is really a slightly above average kid who's trying to appear. That's why he wants to take shop because it's an easy A. The kids that were the valedictorians, the kids that were going to go on, they never wanted an easy A. They always took the hardest classes.
That's true. I can see that.
That's one of the many reasons. That's one of the many reasons he was my least favorite character in the movie.
Actually,
he was. Yeah.
If I was going to say if someone's thinking about Bender, because Barbarian's an easy answer for Bender, but no. And if you with me stopping and thinking about it, I'd say he's a rogue. He's not your finesse. Hold on. He's not your finesse, rogue like the head case was. He knew how to get into places. He knew how to escape from places. Him up in the above the ceiling as he was crawling around to get back to them. He lied a little bit, but when he was going on with the principal about the pot, he wasn't lying. He's like, my pot's in Brian's shorts.
Because he knew no one would ever look there.
Right. He had more rogue. I'm not saying he's the perfect rogue, but he had more rogue.
Right. I get that, but we've already established that what's her name was the rogue. She was stealing shit left and right.
It's okay to have more than just
it's okay to have more than one. But if you were, from my perspective, AD&D, he was definitely a little bit fighter, a little bit thief, a little bit knowledge. Which is not necessarily.
He is an unearthed arcana barbarian. He's that. And number one, this is why I don't play class-based games anyway. But
I can see your argument, but I like to think of him because of how funny he was, because he was funny. You know what I mean? I don't see the barbarian being like that. You might not thought he had a high charisma, but it was at least a 15. You know what I mean? He did get the prom queen to fall for him a little bit. You know what I mean? I mean, to the point where she went out of her way to go find him. You know what I mean? So he had some charm going on there. It's a shame his career didn't follow suit.
There was supposed to be a sequel to this movie.
Thank God there wasn't.
I honestly do kind of like this movie as a sort of
standalone
experimental type thing, character study.
No, yeah, it's a movie that has to exist in microcosm. It must exist in microcosm because the movie starts to break down if you think about, what happens on Monday? Well, I don't want to know what happens on Monday. The movie exists in sum and by itself.
I mean, even they had a conversation when they're all sitting together towards like this, I want to say almost to the back end of the movie, where, are you going if Brian says hi to you, Andy, on Monday, are you going to be nice, or, are we still going to be friends when the week starts? And Clara was probably the most honest of all of them. No, we're not. It's not that I don't like you. It's just you don't fit
in her world.
In her world, which is an incredibly self-centered thing to say, but it's true.
And yet, at the end of the movie, you can argue that things may have actually changed because of the things that happened that one Saturday. Andy and what's her name? They probably saw more of each other because she's probably not gonna, miss out on that opportunity.
Claire had to give her a makeover.
But why?
It would work,
She could probably. I don't know why. But the moment, they were Andy and her were already interested in each other throughout the movie. You can start to see the sparks going in the very beginning. And when she did the makeover, Claire basically gave her the golden ticket to jump into her world with that makeover.
I don't know. I mean, is being cute enough for status?
It's enough if you're the jock. You know what I mean?
Being cute, if she remained cute and quiet and was the girlfriend of the jock, she'd have been just fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's right.
I could I can picture, Bender, being cool with Brian, from that point on, just because of what he said. And, I can see some of them, actually, maybe actually becoming friends, out in public, as it were. Others, not so much.
I don't know. Yeah.
So least favorite characters.
Yeah, least favorite.
So
Yeah.
least favorite character. I mean, is everybody going to just say the principal, or were there other characters that people didn't like? I didn't like Brian because he was just weak. He couldn't see another way out of his predicament, other than just the dumbest possible solution. Just not giving himself, he'd gotten where he'd gotten through some work, and all it would have taken was a little bit of more work to maybe fix that one little thing. His whole life hinged on one little thing. No, it didn't.
I don't know. I don't like Brian not because he's weak. I don't like the Brian character. I mean, a weak character's fine. I don't like him because I think he's undeveloped. Oh, I don't mind a weak character because if it's integral to the movie, or if it shows if the character's like Death of a Salesman. I mean, the main character in Death of a Salesman is a weak character, but is he everybody's least favorite character? No, everybody loves him. Why? Because he's the developed character, right? And I just think the Brian character.
I've literally never seen that, but.
All right, well, it's up to
wow. Okay, I have a handful of times.
The Loman character. What's his name? Benny Loman, Freddie Loman. It's sort of the anti. He's the anti Mary Sue, right? I don't mind an anti Mary Sue because I hate a Mary Sue. I hate a Mary Sue more than I hate a weak character. But the Brian character to me just needed. I needed something. I needed him to confront his parents. I needed him to confront the principal. I just needed some assurances that character was going to progress and change over the course of Willie Loman, pardon me. Needs to progress and change over the course of the movie. That's my Alzheimer's disease kicking in. But
Willie Loman, and then it's been forever since the movie. That's a whole different movie. That movie came out in 1951. I've seen the play and I've seen the movie A Death of Salesman a few times.
I love the Willie Loman character.
All right,
Willie Loman.
Who is your least favorite character there, Mark?
I can't really pick one out. They all kind of played in important, kind of all part of the greater puzzle. So I can't really say like one more. I'd probably go with the nerd kid too. Just, I don't know, just kind of got on my nerves a little bit, but
okay.
Other than that, they all were part of the greater puzzle, and you needed each piece for the movie to work.
All right. What about you, Jack?
It's definitely not Brian. I have a friend who's just like him in almost every way. There's two people I want. There's two people that I want to say. Either, hold up, where is he? A part of me wants to say, I already forgot his name. Shadow's favorite. Yeah, I kind of want to say that, just because he's definitely up close to the bottom of the list. But I'm going to say, what was her name? The weird girl.
Allison.
Yeah. Not necessarily because of. I guess it's not necessarily because of the actual character, just because she's a lot like someone I used to know, and that. Well, I guess I still technically know them, and that person is not very good, and she reminds me of her in a lot of ways.
Okay. Transference, counter-transference.
That
is legitimate motivation.
It's weird because I knew all these people back in high school. I at least knew one person that fit each one of these people back in high school. And my least favorite characters, I guess is one way to put it, was the parents.
Well, they're barely. I mean, I guess they are. Nah.
Because if you look with Brian's mom, if not the dad, has their foot on his fucking neck. Well, you're in detention. Well, I need you to study. I don't think I can't find a way. Then you got the jock's dad. You want to be a loser? Then you got the placating. Then you get the placating father for the prep girl. No, just do this. Then after this, we'll go buy you something new, a shiny new dress or whatever the hell he said. And just to get back at the mom because they're fighting and on their way to getting divorced. The basket case just showed up that Saturday because she had nothing else to do.
But the mom or whoever it was, the person that dropped her off, just like drove away.
Boom! Yeah.
When she was trying to lean into the car to say something, she just took off. It's cold-blooded.
But yeah, the parents. I'm not saying the kids are completely innocent, but the parents are basically.
I was thinking.
What?
Had something. Made the kids kind of the way they were in some cases, or in a lot of cases, depending on the actual parent.
Yeah, those kids are a product of their environment. But we all were, and we all are. My biggest fear in life is that I'm going to do something, inadvertent or advertent. I mean, I'm going to do something that's going to mess my kids up, right?
Mm.
I'm going to do something that's going to mess my kids up. And so you look at these kids through the eyes of a parent, and you think, "Oh man, what could I do to make their lives better?" And I think that when you look at a lot of them, again, like Brian's mom and Andy's dad, they're trying. They're making mistakes, and even like we talked about earlier, the principal, he's trying. He's not doing it right, but he's sincere. He just wants to keep the not screw up.
It was Woe. Woe did that, and now Woe's gone. His crimes have been revealed.
What did I do? Did I chase Shadow off?
You guys
got the rain. I wish we had the rain. Who's gonna let rain our way, Jackie?
No shit.
What?
Is it raining? I hear it raining.
Sorry about that.
That's fine.
I don't mind. I like it. It's very ASMR.
Oh, okay. I'll leave it then. Apparently, there's gonna be like an earthquake here. Justin, it's necessary, okay?
I dropped a tube of blue paint, and I am desperately searching for it.
So, could you turn this movie into an RPG game?
No, because the whole point of this movie is that they're in one room, or effectively they're in one room the whole time.
Yeah.
See, this is where you're wrong. You could.
All right, let's hear it.
Shadwell wants in.
Oh, okay.
I found the blue paint, everybody.
All right, this is how the question I asked Shad. Oh, cool. The question I asked was, could you turn this movie into an RPG? And your son, Shadow, said no. And this is where you are wrong. It is a
Absolutely.
heist game.
Kids on bike. All you do is, at some point when the principal's away, some supernatural thing, rears its ugly head, and the kids are the only ones who notice. Maybe it's the janitor. Maybe it's the principal's occultist. Maybe there's ghosts in the basement. There's so many places you could take this if you just cut the movie like in half and delete the end and go a different direction with it. It would be a great, first level starting party. You know why they're together. and now they've got to solve the mystery. You know, all it's missing is a freaking dog. You know what I mean? The
So
big
my
Great Dane can talk to Bender.
All right. My thought processing. This is a heist. The dean has, all deans like this will go on your permanent record, and all the kids get detention, and they scheme and they some kind of heist to get into the dean's files to get their permanent records. That's how I'd be doing it. All right, Bo.
Yeah,
Any
but
thought?
that wouldn't lend
It's not
itself
my
to like a
style.
campaign. That'd make
Yeah.
a great one shot.
It'd be a one shot.
But
It's
I
just
can do the full campaign.
But this is
Oh,
Just
no.
tell me what genre you want to go.
But
it'd be a one shot.
it's not my style. I like my RPGs. I like my RPGs bigger than life.
All right. What about you?
I play games to escape from reality, and to play a game based on 5 high school kids in detention. It's a stretch for me. Could we do it? Yeah. Would I play it like if I was at a con and somebody was running it and there was nothing else going on? Like in the old days when I go to the local cons and you had like the clipboards, you signed up for different tables.
Yeah.
There's literally nothing going on at that time. Yeah, I'd check it out. Would I run it though? Probably not.
All right, Bo. I mean, not Bo. Mark, what do you think?
Turning this into an RPG adventure.
Yeah, it being a one shot or a small campaign. What do you think?
I mean, I guess you could. You just have to probably focus a lot. It's going to be focused a lot more on role play, and then I guess maybe you could do some type of dungeon crawl where they got to do stealth missions out into the actual school part and not get caught. You could probably do something like that. But yeah, you're gonna have to focus more on role play than any type of combat or anything like that. If
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what you want to do with this.
I don't know, Mark. I can see combat. You've got the jock who knows how to fight. You've got Bender. He's good with the knife, probably. Let's just assume first level abilities.
If you can hang on to it without it being stolen.
Right. Obviously. But I could run with it. I used to run, and I ran for probably like 2 years. Did anybody ever watch Erie, Indiana? Anybody remember that show?
Yeah, I remember it.
Between that and a Stranger Things kind of thing, mixed up, it starts at, literally, Saturday school, and the 5 kids, excuse me, they discover what's going on, and then you take it from there, and then it leads to other stuff, whether it be vampires, ghosts, cultists, something like that. And, I could run it. I could easily run it for a year. Let's put it that way. Would I want to? Probably not. I mean, if somebody, put something on the table, it's like, I bet you can't do it, then maybe I would.
Is it just me, or are all John Hughes movies, except for I know Some Kind of Wonderful is filmed obviously out in California, but most of his other movies always feel like they take part in some makeup town here in Illinois.
It's all Shermer, Illinois.
You make what you know. They're not. I don't think they're in the same universe. Again, because I like to think of his movies as one shots. But I do think that when you make movies, why are all of Stephen King's movies in Maine?
Right. Well, he knew
You
Maine.
make what you know, right?
Right.
Just like you, Connell, you even talked about your Dresden, game. It would be centered around what you know, and that's, Illinois.
Right. Where was he born?
Me, I've been all over the place, but I'd still probably do California.
The mean streets of Chicago.
Because I've seen some sketchy places all over, but honestly, none of them more sketchy than California or parts of Virginia. Maybe Atlanta.
Detroit was.
Never been there.
Oh, yeah, no. All the places I've seen, Detroit, probably Detroit takes the cake. I mean, it's so bad they needed to make a RoboCop movie there.
That's only because Gary, Indiana was too low rent.
Hey,
Gary,
watch it
Indiana.
now.
I've been to Gary, Indiana.
That's 10 minutes away from me.
Hey, at least none of you guys have a place called Goofy Ridge.
That's right. I was born in Gary, actually.
Oh,
Well, you are the toughest man in the room.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm a legend in my own mind.
aren't we all? Is there any scenes you take out of this movie? I can't.
If anything, I want it longer. I want to see the Fable director's cut.
Yeah. All right, Jack. Any parts of this movie you cut out?
I can't say all of it like I usually do. So I don't know. I'd probably if I assume this question is effectively if I was directing the movie or if I was given like that script or whatever, would you cut any scenes? The answer would be yes. And that is every single scene in which Frick is mentioned.
Who?
Who?
The F word. He's talking about the F
Oh,
word. The
yeah,
language.
it was a little bit blue. I agree with that. I don't think it needed that many curses to be an effective movie. I think that it was just part of trying to be edgy in the early mid '80s.
Yeah, that's what it was.
It
What
did.
was
It
the
did
rated?
make it edgy. I mean, but again, if you'd have taken out all of the F words in the movie, it would have been a strong PG.
Yeah. Well, PG. I have to find. I don't know.
Not what I meant.
This was probably PG-13, so that's why he probably put the F words and stuff in there to push the
Modern
PG-13
day.
envelope.
Yeah. For modern day, you can get away with one F-bomb in a PG-13 movie. Not multiple, but one. If they would have just left that one where Bender gets 8 detentions, technically, according to Brian, and he leaves the room and Bender says F you, that would have been fine.
It was rated R because of the F words and the pot smoking.
Oh, yeah. Probably more because of the pot than the F-bomb.
Probably more of the pot smoking pushed the
Yeah.
R.
I mean, I was a little confused as to why that was necessary. Why everyone was saying it was.
Because it gave them all an excuse to really open up with each other and sort of bond in a way that made the movie able to go forward, because they could have easily just ignored each other for the rest of the movie. But once they had, broken bread, so to speak, together like that, they were.
I disagree. Getting Molly Wren mad enough to say being Miss Prissy and Anthony Michael Hawk saying it was a bonding thing. No, same as the pot as a bond. Yeah, I agree. I agree with Shadow. The pot was just a bonding experience. All right, so you take out the F-bomb.
I mean, actually, that's not at all what I meant. But
He
I
meant
guess
the smooching.
that's also not what I meant. But sure, I guess.
What do you mean?
What I said was all mentions of bad thing.
Premarital sex.
Well, it
that
was
whole,
deeper than that. But yes,
Okay. So you weren't okay.
because frankly, it's kind of gay.
You hear that, guys?
Kind of the
hear
exact
that?
opposite, but
For my
I
Okay.
understand what it means. What you think it means?
Hold on.
No. I know what it. I've said this before countless times. When I say gay, I do not mean homosexual. I mean deviant.
We lived through that. When we call somebody Fag, we don't mean the person's actually homosexual.
Exactly.
I just want you
You
to
can
know.
call several things gay, knowing that they are not literally homosexual. Because a lot of the things people call gay cannot be homosexual because they are not alive. They are either ideas, or they are objects, or events, things which are incapable of being homosexual.
Well,
With a couple of
It's just fun seeing you get all worked up, sport.
I don't want to see anybody get worked up. I'm having a. I'm
Oh, I
having
do.
a.
I live with him. I live with him. It's hysterical.
Thank you for blowing up the chat yet again, there, Jack. By the way, Jack, I
And
want you to know.
don't forget, the internet is forever. And
That's not true.
when I'm old and grayer, I'll be able to watch this episode if it doesn't get taken down. And
Exactly.
I technically got dinged last week because of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, but I really don't care.
how so?
Because we mentioned the word fag.
Well, you know what? It's in the movie. The movie's available on YouTube, so they can suck it.
Who
So I
dinged
just
you?
want you to know, Jack. Though I do have a couple. I have a couple friends. One of them is a gay couple. And every time you say gay, they take a drink.
why should I care?
I'm just saying you turned this into some of a drinking game from time to time.
I can just
Get
go
your
ahead and
friends
go
hammered?
off.
You
What?
get your friends hammered?
Yeah,
there
I
was
can
one
do
episode
that.
where, yeah, he got them pretty
I
drunk.
won't. I might. I won't.
But he could.
Yeah,
It's okay. Everybody has their thing. With Max, it's Earth Dawn. You know, with gatekeepers, not gatekeepers. With table breakers, it's stripper club. It's okay. It's okay. It's a thing.
Still don't know what that means. I still hope nobody ever tells me.
Okay. So, Mark, did I ask you what scene you take out?
No.
Okay, what scene would you take out? Sorry, I kind of got lost. in the weeds.
Only thing I seen that really didn't add anything to the real story, but I don't know that it needs to come out. But it was just a thing in all these '80s movies was the whole dance montage thing. Didn't really add anything to the story, but it's kind of like it's always an essential thing. We saw this in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. We see it in a lot of
Well, that's
80s
actually funny
movies
you
with the
mentioned that.
dance montage.
Evidently, the dancing was only supposed to be Molly Ringwald dancing, but she was so embarrassed to dance, she convinced John Hughes and the rest of the cast, to join in for that library scene. So, I mean, it could have been left on the cutting room floor. It could have been not filmed at all.
I don't know. I think one of my favorite parts was seeing Amelia Esperance, the guy who played Benner, and those three guys who, by all means, should be at each other's throats, just because of how high school, is supposed to be. But them instinctively dancing on that rail, doing that, I thought that was actually kind of cool.
It was a madness one.
Yeah.
That was kind of a W. I will say.
All right. So, and I get what you're saying. Some of these movies don't need a dancing scene, and I completely get it. And so, yeah, that's fair. Shadow, have I asked you?
No, you didn't, and I honestly can't think of anything I would change. Like Bo said, I would like the movie to be longer, only a little bit, but the movie's damn near perfect for everything it's set out to do, as far as I can tell. Without interviewing John Hughes himself. Yeah,
Hope you got your Ouija board.
Yeah.
I can get one.
He's a little bit beyond.
I would. Yeah, I'll ask Raven to do it for me. I'm pretty sure she's still in the chat. But no, I'm not going to go that route. Raven.
Probably need to be saying stuff, but
no, I wouldn't change anything. I literally can't think of anything other than
he passed away
adding to it.
I would take out the sushi scene.
The lunch scene?
The sushi scene.
Where Molly Ringwald pulls the sushi out of her
Yeah.
bag and that.
Small town Illinois in the 80s. I call bullshit.
Binging with Babbage actually did an episode about that. We talked about how 1980s sushi was of a much lower quality than later sushi. And although it certainly was available, and she certainly did have the money, I think it was just more to illustrate that her family had cash.
I don't know. I know sushi quality definitely has gotten better over the years, but I'm just being from Illinois. Granted, that is a small fictional, town. Kind of looks like Morton. It kind of looks like a couple small towns here in Illinois, but I unless it came from a high-end sushi restaurant in the 80s, I knew sushi blew up in the 80s. I do know that. It was all the major cities at least had one or two places, but not small towns.
Well, no, but they were not. Shermer, the Pixel Room Shermer, is a suburb of Chicago.
Oh,
And you get that reference when Brian is talking to Allison, and he says, "Are you going to be a bag lady? Are you going to be one of those ladies that talks to buildings and wears men's shoes? How are you going to survive on these mean streets of Chicago?"
I didn't catch the Chicago part. Chicago, yeah, Chicago. There would have been a few. Yeah, but still.
So Shermer would have been a suburb. I'm not familiar with the Chicago land.
Wait, if it was Illinois and Chicago, then why was there a Confederate flag up?
Where was it?
I think that was the Tennessee
Georgia
State flag.
which at one time.
Well,
had a
yeah,
Confederate flag.
several flags have had that flag on it. I don't know exactly which one.
So when they're in the library, many of the state flags, I won't say all of them, but many state flags represented as they dance along the balcony inside the library.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, was there just every state flag up in that room?
Maybe there might have been, but I don't remember
think
seeing
so,
it.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I think it was just a regular state flag that
All
had
right,
the
other than the sushi, was there actually anything? The dancing didn't bother me. Them smoking pot kind of made sense. Yeah, that was the only scene of that just kind of broke it for me was her eating sushi in the 80s, and I thought it was a small town in Illinois. I didn't catch that it was a suburb of.
yeah, it was a northern suburb of Chicago somewhere.
But
yeah,
even
it would have been
still,
sound good. Although the vice principal did have a White Sox cat versus a Cubs cat, which I find telling
So
from a socioeconomic perspective. There's some scenes that don't make sense because it's a fantasy. Like this is one of my favorite. This is a deep reference. At the very beginning, when Bender is having his fight with Andy, and Bender says, "Do you think I'd speak for you? I don't even speak your language." Okay. Fast forward about halfway through the movie. Andy is smoking pot. He goes into the language lab that says foreign language, and that window breaks. His foreign language breaks. Now he speaks the same language as Bender because they've had these common experiences from which to draw. The whole movie's full of little Easter eggs like that.
I have to watch it again.
I watched it 3 times in preparation for this show.
I watched it not. I watched it twice. I watched it again earlier today, and I watched it a couple days ago. I had a couple questions. The things that didn't make sense, like, is the music playing in their head, or are they actually playing music? Because if they're playing music, where's the dean? Or
They are playing music. You can see them playing. There's music. There's a turntable in the library.
Yeah. And Brian was going through the records, even tossing some around. That whole, sort of, emulating Bender, sort of,
And there's a scene where Allison's character is looking at a Prince album in the library. She's got it in her hand.
Mm-hmm.
Good taste in music.
Yeah, no shit. All right. So what were you guys?
I had a question for everybody. Because I was thinking about it while I was watching it. What grade do you think each of the kids were in?
Like as characters? Oh yeah, I've thought about that.
Because for me it seemed like, for example, like Brian appeared to be more like a freshman
Yeah, he's more of
than any other.
a ninth or 10th grader. Yeah.
Whereas I could have actually seen Bender having been held back at least 1 year.
The 5-year
You know,
plan.
at least 1 year, maybe not in high school, but the fact that his dad gave him a carton of cigarettes. Okay, well back then you had to be 18. Okay,
Well, it's
and if you're
illegal.
18, you're a senior. But I could see him, being 19 during the movie. That character, literally having been held back because he literally, he pulled out a cigarette and for the most part back then, if that had happened to you and you were 19, I know here, you could smoke. They couldn't do a damn thing about it except maybe you have to smoke over here. You know what I'm saying? I went to at least 2 high schools where there was a smoking section, and there was nothing you could do about it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, by the time I was in high school, there was no such thing as smoking.
Yeah, that was done away with by the time I was in high school, and that was '87. But I remember when my older brother was in high school, they still did have it. But I'm sure you had to have a parental consent form to be able to go to.
You didn't even have to have that because you were 18.
Oh.
There was literally nothing they could do because you were 18.
They still had to
you don't
sign
need
something.
you don't need parental because you're an adult. Okay. Now Claire, I'm pretty sure she was a senior.
Junior. Claire would be a junior.
You think so?
Yeah, she's the prom queen, right?
Right, but didn't they have prom every year?
Yeah, but if it was the junior prom, and not only that, but the Molly Ringwald character was, she was 16 when she made the movie. So by virtue of actually being 16, I would paint her as a junior. And
I just pictured the way Bender had talked about her, that she was literally like the most popular girl in school. That to me just screams senior. Whereas
not necessarily.
Maybe the most popular girl in her class. I don't know.
I went to school. I was in high school. The most popular girl in the years I went there was my age, and she was the most popular girl in school just because her basic money and what her dad did for a living. So I don't think age.
And what about Andy? Do you think he was a senior?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in a big school, to be a varsity wrestler, you had to been at least a junior or just a real prodigy. So and plus he's getting to the end. He's talking about, do you want to blow your ride? That probably would have made him a senior. Getting to the end of his varsity athletic career and getting ready to go on to wrestle at college, someplace like Iowa or Ohio, where they get really strong wrestling programs.
And then Allison, whatever, which is weird. How she got to use her real name, more or less.
Right.
Wasn't she originally supposed to play Molly Ringwald's character? But
I really can't picture that.
Yeah, I think there was some issues. I didn't read a whole lot of the behind the scenes, but I do recall learning that.
I remember, I was watching an interview. It was like the something anniversary of the Breakfast Club, and all. Yeah, that's how I learned that the guy who played Bender was basically told to calm his ass down, or he's going to get kicked off the film. Yeah. No, I think you guys are right when it comes to ages. I can see Brian being a freshman or a sophomore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bender being either a senior or a super senior.
Yeah. 5-year plan, baby.
Claire's probably. I could see Claire being a junior, either a junior or senior. Most likely, probably
but nothing younger.
Oh, she had been at least 16.
Well, none of them drove. That was the thing. None of them actually drove themselves. Bender walked, and everybody else got dropped off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if there's in the cutscene, there's a cutscene that says that the reason that Claire had detention was not just that she cut school, but she actually stole one of the school's driver's ed cars to do it. So she probably had her license suspended, or she was taking driver's ed at the time.
So that's definitely 16, 17. So that's junior.
Mm-hmm. Allison, I clear junior.
I don't see her. I don't even see her having the responsibility to have a car. Andy probably got grounded from using his car because his, for taping that kid's butthole shut.
But did all the kids back in? I mean, I know when I was in high school, not every kid of age had a car. Some people,
No,
Right.
no, it was pretty rare. Not pretty rare, but I mean, there was clear delineations between income to determine who would have a car.
Absolutely.
And quick question: I was it me or did Allison's parents' car look pretty expensive?
Yeah, it was one of those old weird hatchback Cadillacs with the trunk looked like a ruptured membrane.
when I first saw it, I thought it was a gremlin. Like that's.
Oh, it was one of those weird
that was no gremlin.
Cadillacs.
No, that
Yeah,
was
I
that
know.
was,
I
that
had
was
to.
definitely
I
a
had
caddy.
to. Yeah, I said the first time I saw it, I thought it was a gremlin. I went and watched it. I'm like, yeah, that's not gremlin.
No. Gremlins and Pacers, man. You guys ever been in one of those?
No, thank
Not
you.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Not
buddy in high
fun,
school
but
that had a
actually-
gremlin.
Not fun, but actually they could be fun. Or the Pinto. Oh man.
All
I can
right.
tell you some stories about a couple of Pintos, but we won't because Jackie's here.
So we did least favorite scenes or scenes to be taken out. What about on the other side of that scale? What was your favorite scene? I'll start with you, Shadow.
You mean Shadwell?
Yeah, Shadwell. Whatever.
Shadrach, get it right.
Shadrach.
If you're gonna bastardize the name, get it right. Can you come back to me because that's a tough one. There's so many great scenes in that movie.
All right, Mark.
Probably when the guy was crawling through the ceiling, and then on his first, when he was trying to sneak back in the library, you hear him falling somewhere through the ceiling in the background. I thought that was kind of funny.
I want to be in.
I wanted to hear the end of that joke.
There isn't one. Never got written. You have to write it yourself.
Oh God. Yeah. All right. What about you, Jack?
Wait, what joke are you talking about? I honestly don't remember.
A blonde walks into a bar. She's got a 2-foot salami under one arm and a poodle under the other.
Oh yeah. Oh, by the way, I changed my favorite character. My favorite character is that poodle.
Even in the movie.
If there's a dog in the movie, it's his favorite character.
Even
Yeah.
if it's mentioned.
Yeah.
Even if it's just an imaginary character.
Works for me.
All right.
So what's your favorite scene, Sport?
I don't know. I guess. Probably when the janitor. Every scene the janitor was on screen. Not one specific one. Just every time he ever showed up, that was really epic. Those were
Do
W
you guys,
scenes.
do you
I
guys
can't
remember
really
that
put-
actor from anything else?
I know I've seen him in other stuff.
I can only think of one thing I've ever seen him in besides that. Did you guys ever watch Forever Night?
Yeah, I saw Forever Night.
He was Detective Skanky.
He put on some weight for that role then.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Other than that, I can't think of anything, and that's a shame. What about you, Bo? Favorite scene?
The one that's sticking out to me right now is as towards the end of the movie when they're going through each other's wallets and purses to show, get a little insight. And Bender, Bender turns over Claire's purse, and he's brushing his teeth with her makeup brush, and that's the same brush that they use on Allison's eyebrows at the end of the movie. But they sort of they're sort of really sharing, and they're really intimate details about what's going on. And they talk about what they did to get into tension. But that little scene where they go through each other's purses and wallets, that's really insightful.
Wait, L, so you mean what you're saying is like the dog just you give him the salami and then he just leaves it there on the floor and doesn't do anything with it, even though you spent like 3 minutes trying to convince him to eat it, so you put peanut butter on it, and then you throw it to him, he does nothing, you pick it up, you throw it to him again, he grabs it, runs away, and then throws it onto his bed, staining it, and now the whole freaking thing has this massive stain on it, so he doesn't like sitting there anymore, and what?
That's going to be a maybe for me.
Okay, you're just reading too far into that joke there, Haas. It's okay, though.
It's okay.
All right. Shadow, going back to you.
There are a couple. Obviously, the smooch scenes. I thought that was cool. Because it shows you that they actually got really close, and the potentiality for that to continue, at least in certain shippers' minds. But there was this one little scene. I know. You, don't worry. When you grow up, you won't mind so much.
Doubt.
When there was this one little scene, I don't know if you guys remember it, when they showed everybody's shoes. You know what I mean? And they had to really think about it until they got to Allie. What they give her? Did anybody remember that scene?
I have to watch it.
Yeah.
No, I didn't catch that part, but okay.
Cons, didn't she?
Where where they they showed Claire's freaking expensive Italian boots, Brian's knockoff like Kmart, Nike. Okay, and I Bender obviously the combat boots with the bandana, handies, and weren't they like tanker boots?
I'm not talking about the boots, but I want to come back to the way he was dressed in a minute when we get done with this.
Okay. All right.
And then they get to Allie, and they gave her like the dirtiest, nastiest freaking Converse, actual sneakers. You know what I mean? But they could have literally made the movie poster with just a scene of just their shoes lined up. You know what I mean? And it would have told you everything you needed to know about the characters just from that little bit of information.
Right. Well,
again, why Allie had the shoes I wouldn't even drop off at the thrift store, but she kind of was fostering that because I think she actually did come from money. If you think about it, she was going out of her way to do everything possible to not be like Claire. Just to maybe her own way of rebelling against her parents, who were probably just like, why are you getting your clothes at the thrift store, kind of sort of frustration to the parents. It was just I didn't understand that until recently. I'm like, that was probably her only way to rebel or get them to notice her, or that to maybe show more of her character of just how ignored she was.
Right. She was.
Before we jump into what you want to say, I want to say I have two favorite scenes really quick. And I don't know why, but they're just my favorite scenes. Where Bender lights his cigarette off of his burning shoe, because I did that a few times as a teenager too.
Why would you? I don't even understand what that was about.
It's total. It's like when Dave Lister puts a cigarette in his ear, a burning cigarette in his ear because he needs his hands. Have you ever seen that scene in Red Dwarf? It's like the very first episode. They're doing something and he's smoking and he needs to use both hands, so he puts his cigarette in his ear and it stays there. Okay, it's that sort of kind of lower class sort of things they learn to just problem solving situation. But he also sort of assigned rebellion and to kind of like stink up the room with the smell of burning shoe, maybe to even cover up the smell of the tobacco.
I mean, I've lit a cigar once or twice doing that. I'm not saying it was the best decision of my life.
You ruined the taste of the cigar for like many minutes.
Oh man, this was early days of my cigar. This was like the gas station Titan cigars. I mean, these were not great cigars to begin with.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
And the second part is when they're having lunch, and Andy he pulls up the grocery sack.
That was me in high school.
That was me.
My lunches would be like 3 regular lunches, and that was every day because I was running 20 or 30 miles a day at the time. So
I was in boxing, I was in rugby, I was in swimming. So I was just
2 years of
always
football.
freaking hungry.
Yeah, but I never during wrestling season. No way a wrestler would be eating that much.
No, not unless he was underweight. You're right.
Unless
No
he was
way.
underweight, yeah. But no,
And what the hell was
Oh, yeah,
Ali
I've
eating?
What?
I've seen wrestlers do interesting things to get into the right weight class.
Oh,
I'm still living that lifestyle, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
2 years of football. I almost missed one game because I was too heavy. But what the hell was Ali eating? Was that
it
pimento
was
loaf?
white bread. It
Sugar.
was white bread.
Pimento
Those
loaf.
pixie sticks,
Sugar sticks, certainly.
sugar sticks, pixie sticks. Where we got cereal. I think it was Captain Crunch.
It's Captain Crunch.
Was it Captain Crunch?
Yep.
Captain Crunch. Then crushed it in the sandwich, and she ate it.
And
That
chips,
was a bit. That was a bit much for me. Granted, like I said, I was Andy, where I was just pulling out everything, everything on the table. But I couldn't eat enough back in high school for keeping up. What I lose any weight I gain like that, just because
What was Bender's lunch, or did he not have one?
He didn't have one.
He didn't have one.
Okay.
That's why he went over to Brian and said, "So, what are we having for lunch today?" Yeah, but
because that's one of the things they screwed up on, because they could have actually made his lunch pretty funny. Because everybody knows if you're smoking weed, you're going to be hungry. Just saying.
But he lives in an abusive relationship, and he literally, he doesn't have anybody helping him out. He probably didn't have dinner either.
the mom's probably checked out years ago. The dad's
A burner, an alcoholic.
yeah. So anybody taking care at home is.
No, I know, but he should have at least had like a package of Twinkies or something. Just is that he shoplifted from the local AM PM or Circle K. And maybe a microwave burrito or something. I think they just missed the opportunity. Unless they were just going for that's how freaking awful his life was, or his home life.
That might be.
Because think about it, he had enough money for a good, quarter ounce, eighth ounce of weed, which back then that you're talking like $50. So it's not like he didn't have money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that was his cut from what he was selling.
Probably.
Yeah.
Because when you sell, you get your weed for free.
No.
Or so I've heard.
Yeah, so I've heard. So what were you going to say about whose clothing?
Bender, the cutoff flannel with the long sleeve thermal, with the boots. That was grunge. Now that didn't take off for another 10 years, 6-7 years after. But you can see that the Seattle sound must have had some influence by the way Bender was dressing in this movie, because I look back, I was like, That's how we dressed in like 1990, 1991.
I kind of dressed like that back in high school. Yeah.
I mean, I would expect that if it would have been in the later 90s, he would have. Well, he was listening to. I mean, he was doing the air guitar to Cream, "Sunshine of Your Love." So he obviously had good taste in music.
But he was also doing In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, wasn't he?
No, that was Cream. Down. In the sunshine of your love. Pardon me, I can't sing. Anyway, yeah, grunge. He was totally grunge.
That was interesting. I didn't catch. You're absolutely right. Now I'm like going back through, 91's Nirvana and that whole.
Except we had like old beat up Doc Martin boots.
Yeah, but wasn't the punk scene was there in the 80s?
Right, but not like that. It would have been like bondage pants and spiked hair.
Yep, and a crap ton of safety pins.
Yeah,
and a leather jacket.
Yeah, with the sex.
No, yeah, that was more grunge or a poorer version of metal.
Okay. I now that I'm starting thinking about it, I could see it. You said earlier in this, I don't know if it was on stream or not, about a reboot to this movie. I think I wouldn't want there to be a reboot. Honestly, I wouldn't really want there to be. But at the same time, just as a timepiece, I think it would be interesting if they did a reboot, a remake. But no one played the same characters. No one played Andy, Brian, the original characters. These are all new characters.
All new story.
All new story.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
We all know what would happen.
I think it'd be interesting though.
Purple-haired trans.
No, it wouldn't. It would be awful. It would be awful because that period of time created all of the sort of stereotypes that would follow afterwards. You would get all of the worst aspects of the time that came after that. You would get I don't even want to discuss the kinds of people and the kinds of characters that you would get. They would just be absolutely. They would be. What year would you place it?
Honestly, if you're going to
2000.
A movie, anything like all of any semblance to that kind of culture, any kind of normalcy died somewhere around 2010, maybe on the outside. I'm sorry, we're living in a post-normal society.
I would base it in the early 2000s. The year I graduated from high school is where I would put it.
Listening to like 311 and
Creed, 311, Nickelback, Linkin Park.
Look at this graph.
It wouldn't work.
I don't know.
I wish.
What I will say is it would absolutely be an interesting way to visualize the decline in our culture. Just to add one that is set and earnestly set a good generation before, to have a sort of trilogy.
I don't think anybody is going to say the Generation X was the good generation. Was a good generation.
Well, not entirely. That's for sure.
Well, but look at
it was the end of so many things.
This was the end of goodness in this country, and in countries across the world. Not all of them, of course.
If they did it right, if they would have done it in the early 2000s, hell, do one in the 90s. Unfortunately, you can't get any.
That wouldn't really be as interesting because it would barely be.
You didn't live through the 90s, kid.
No, I don't mean like it wouldn't be as interesting as like it would be bad. I mean, I think that there should be a very, very drastic change. There would obviously be change. I'm not saying there wouldn't be, but it would honestly be better to have one. If you really, again, we probably have very different ideas on why this would be done, but one set either a couple like a decade ago or even now, and then one set way before the actual movie to document it, or not document it because that would imply some actual like you're writing to visualize the change in culture is the only. I think that having 3 movies like this with the same premise would be an interesting way to visualize things.
Well, they
And
already did it in the 50s. It was all the James Dean movies.
I mean,
James, oh
if
no,
you
oh no,
take out
he's gotten you too. I
Okay.
can't believe we fall into the lies of James Dean.
I was like, but you also have movies like Grease, which God, ugh. Then you have Revenge of the Nerds,
That's which is the same era.
which are they the same? No, Revenge of the Nerds was in the 80s.
The Breakfast Club was in the 80s.
Yeah. Then you have one of my favorite movies, Pump Up the Volume, which was the 90s.
Very early in the 80s. Christian Slater.
Yeah. Did the 2000? Oh, yeah, 2000 had a bunch of dumb ones.
American Pie.
American Pie, yeah. I was not allowed.
1983.
I was not allowed to watch that movie when it first came out.
That's probably smart.
I mean, when it comes to school movies, I got my favorites. The chief amongst them is a mix between Pump Up the Volume and Animal House. But I don't know. A variation of this movie being made today would be interesting just to see. I don't know. It has high school changed? Have the kids in high school really are any different than the kids that were back in the 80s, the 90s?
We do because we don't let them be kids anymore.
Yeah, the actual closing of Toys R Us stores were the beginning of the end for real childhoods.
They tore my high school. They tore it down and they rebuilt it all, and it literally looks like a jail. It's got a big fence around it, and it's built like in a hub and spoke system where the kids are locked behind a gate for the 8 or 9 hours a day that they're in school. It's those the childhood. I mean, even like I'm not going to compare my soft ass childhood to my dad's, right, in the late 40s, early 50s. His childhood was way more hardcore than mine was, but mine was way harder than what kids have it now. Kids, we intentionally make them soft.
Well, I don't know if it's but there is definitely people involved in it. I mean, I've gone out of my way to, between the bike riding to school and the long walks, home from school to he was the only kid that did that. He still rides his bike, but we had our, our little, mini adventure every day after school because there were no kids in our neighborhood for Jackie. We would, take the longest way home from school most of the time just to get the tiniest little glimpse of what it was like when I grew up. We were out on our bikes all day long. We go home and throw the backpack and then right back on the bikes till the street lights came on, or in some cases dinner time or what have you. But we weren't at home in front of a screen the second we got home. And we had friends. We went out and did things. We got in trouble. The kids don't even get in trouble now, except in like really big ways. We got in little trouble. Obviously we got in some big trouble, but we kind of got in little trouble like every day. We had to push the boundaries and learn what we could do physically and what we could get away with, and we had to find our own fun. We had to find ways to entertain ourselves, whether it was rock fights or, hiking or biking or, chasing each other or playing things like tag or football, instead of every kid is at home in front of a screen, as soon as they get home till the time they go to bed?
I don't know. My drawing for me was interesting. I'm just going to leave it there. It wasn't soft. It sure as hell wasn't soft, but it could have been a whole lot harder than what it was. But yeah, I don't know. So any other questions? I had for this movie. Would you watch this movie? I'm pretty sure everybody's going to say yes. Would you watch this movie again recently, or would it be a couple of years down the road before you watch it again?
No,
I'll start with Jack.
no,
No, would you have any? You would not show this to any of your friends?
no.
Wow, that's right there. That is the decline in youth, right there.
I don't
And
watch
why
movies
is that, Jackson?
because I
What?
don't watch movies unless you force me to.
All right, yeah, because I am that control freak. One movie a week, yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
rough.
well,
Though to be fair, no, I do watch some movies. I repeatedly watch the Spider-Man Raimi trilogy and the prequels, the Star Wars prequels. Other than that, I don't watch movies.
Oh. And you didn't watch Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure either, did you?
No,
No.
I tried to get him to. He would have loved it, or at least
I was doing things.
All right. Bo, who's already seen this movie 3 times.
What about you, Mark?
this week.
Mark, did you watch this one with your little ones?
No, I watched it by myself, but yeah, I'd watch it again, and like if it's on TV, or if I'm at home clicking through TV, or if it's on, I'll just probably leave it on in the background and watch it for a little bit. But yeah, it's I mean, it's like this movie is probably like a pinnacle encapsulation of the 80s. If they're going to tell you, top 5 movies that define the 80s, this has to be in the top 5, I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Most of the John Hughes movies actually kind of fit that, though. Pretty in Pink. 16 Candles is kind of rapey, but it was definitely an 80s child. But yeah, I agree with you. I was gonna say, Bo, you've already seen this movie 3 times in 1 week. Are you gonna watch this movie again sometime soon?
I go on Film Jags when I'm at work, and finding things to watch when I'm writing my reports and doing all my charting can be kind of problematic. But I'll probably watch it until they take it off of Netflix, and then when they take it off, I'll hopefully something else will replace it.
Gotcha.
Before that, the one I watched. What?
I'm sorry.
So yeah, I'll probably watch at least once more before they take it off.
Would you guys recommend this to your kids at some point, now or in the future?
Yeah, I think my daughter would like it. She loves the 80s stuff. It's still a thing with her. When the Stranger Things hit, she was all about that, and she likes a lot of 80s stuff. So I think she'd like it. But I think she's kind of like Jack. It's a different animal. My daughter, she very rarely sits down, or she doesn't even really that fond of actually going to the movie theaters to watch a movie. She's just about shorter YouTube things. It's just a whole differently total animal nowadays.
Yeah, because when you guys mention actually watching TV, I don't even know what that means anymore. That it's not like TV. It's like
Right.
Netflix or a specific streaming service, and you just kind of get, it's less. There's less, the ease of use. In the old days, you just went through all the channels and saw what was on. Now you got to practically sign into the specific site or what have you, and then see. It just seems like you have to actually go look for news. You know what I mean? It's not just it's on every channel at this hour like it used to be. Watching TV to me is literally Netflix or something like that.
Yeah, but
and
we
then
should.
looking for and looking for the specific thing that you want, already knowing, not going. I suppose on Netflix you can see the what new stuff, but it's more like spoon fed to you.
We do have, well, not really, but we do have TV, I guess, where we can watch the Weather Channel and South Park, but that's pretty much all we use it for.
South Park.
What? That's
Yes,
good. It's good.
Never watched it.
South
Really?
Park. My problem with South Park is very simple. I just think I'm so far down the track, and the train is so far ahead of me. There's just no catching up.
Amen.
I don't really think that matters. You don't need to watch from the beginning. It's not that kind of show.
It does. Well, it does have a progression slowly over the years, but you can literally pick up any episode at any time. I would like to be able to, not necessarily binge watch, but find a point, where we could sit and go, okay, we're gonna watch like 2 episodes of South Park from beginning to end, and eventually get there. Maybe even eventually catch up to whatever's
20
current.
years
But
late.
Though I've heard that there are
No.
a couple things that you would want to skip because I heard that it had a decline for a long period of time.
yeah, I know.
And
It's
it's
been
just
on for what,
with the
20
new season.
years?
And that's literally the kind of thing that makes me, be like, okay, I'm done.
No, it's
You
South
know,
Park's got to be pushing close to 30 now, kind of.
Yeah, but
Early 90s.
from everything I've seen, the new South Park season is no longer in that decline. It's gotten out of it.
No, that's awesome. If that's
I'm
the
very
case,
unforgiving though, Jackie. You know that.
Oh yeah,
It
I'm
doesn't
very.
take much. It doesn't take much for me to just, write something off and be done
That's
with
true.
it forever.
And that's true.
Yeah, which I think is really, really stupid.
before this goes any further, I want to do the wrap up. Because
By the way, Justin, yes, the prequels. The prequels are the best trilogy. Don't at me on that. Don't fight me on that. It's an objective fact. The prequels are the Star Wars prequels are the
the
greatest
fact
piece of
that
media
you're wrong is
ever
not
made
needing to
by
be fact.
any. What?
The fact that you're wrong is the fact in that matter, but that's besides the point.
Child soldiers. Super
Yes.
cringe.
Anyways, so wrapping this show up, I'm glad that everybody enjoyed the movie. For the parts that they enjoyed, I think this is another time capsule, as it was said about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure for the 80s.
What's the next one?
The next one is Marks, which is we're doing a little bit more of the not too real life of the 80s high school. We're going to a darker possibility for your high school experience, one involving
There's
aliens.
Aliens?
Aliens.
Shad was excited.
No, it's not the movie Aliens.
No.
No, I mean about aliens.
It's
Well,
faculty. How do you say it, Mark?
The
Faculty.
Faculty.
Which you can also find on Amazon Prime. I went looked for it. So yeah, the class in 1999. Young Frodo before he went home to Middle Earth. So we're going to be reviewing that this coming week, which I'm looking forward to. That. Then in September,
It's been a while since I saw that one.
and then in September we will be doing guilty pleasure movies. I don't care what the movie is. It might be a theme that we already have done, it being high school, medieval, whatever. But it has to be a guilty pleasure movie, a movie that you don't really want to
like.
really want to like.
Admit that you like? Oh, really? Wow.
I already found
God,
mine.
that changes everything.
I don't have any.
I
Yeah, you
already
do.
found
Any
mine.
of the Star Wars prequels.
No, those are just great pieces of media. The Star Wars the Star Wars prequels are the greatest series of movies ever made.
Yeah, I can't have him keep lying to the chat.
I can't tell if that was irony or if he's serious. Sometimes kids like to be contrary just to be contrary.
I know, but it just feels like he's lying to the chat. All right.
No, I think he honestly believes that. That's the problem.
I'm genuinely serious. The Star Wars prequels are fantastic. Yeah, the dialogue's a little
very dumb.
Wooden.
Yes,
I would
everybody
describe that
knows
as
it.
wooden.
The original trilogy had some goofy dialogue. A lot of it was cut out. Have you seen that clip of Mark Hamill explaining this one line of dialogue that George just insisted that he said until the very last second it was cut? It is worse than anything in the prequels. It's just that in the prequels, it wasn't cut out as much.
You judge
Yeah,
my-
but
I'm
seriously,
all about I'm just about really Empire. Empire is like is one of my favorite movies ever.
I'm not
Yeah,
saying the original trilogy is bad. The original trilogy is fantastic.
No.
as well.
Return of the Jedi has got some really bad stuff going on in it. I mean, it's basically about Muppets.
Return of the Jedi is underrated, I think, but
It's Muppets.
re-race. Oh my God, that's awesome. Rebasing clear, so that's awesome.
So, since we're doing
I prefer math.
movies,
Thank you
guilty
very
pleasure
much.
movies, I know with
Don't do
me
drugs.
and people who know me in the
But make
panel
drugs.
and chat
You make them.
would probably think I'd be picking, like, say, Cocaine Bear, which, trust me, I thought about. But no. I found my guilty pleasure. I've seen it. I just recently found it, and since seeing it, I've seen it like 4 times within the last, like, 2 weeks. And it's going to make Shadow happy. But you're going to wait to find out what that is.
Hey,
All right.
you gave me a Western month, man. I'm already happy. Thanks, man.
And for too long, I was talking to Shadow. For too long, we got to do a war movie month because I already got my pick, if I'm allowed.
If you could continue showing up with us, which I don't have a problem with, it brings us up to 6.
I said, well, let's just not talk. Let's just not get other people in YouTube involved that don't particularly like them.
Well,
As long as nobody picks All Quiet, I'm fine. I will commit a war crime.
All Quiet?
Yeah.
Just not
On
the
the Western
not the
Front?
Netflix remake.
Yeah, All
Not
Quiet
the-
on the Western Front.
No, the 1978 version I liked.
Can I pick Inglourious Bastards?
No, it's not a real
No.
war movie.
I mean, we're a real group.
Platoon is my favorite war movie ever.
Yeah,
You know what? I know exactly what movie I would pick. I won't because I probably won't even have time to show up. But I know exactly what movie I would pick, and Shadwell
movie?
is
Is
going
it
to love
a
it.
Star Wars movie?
Rogue One.
Rogue One is a war movie. Rogue One
Okay. I can't even be mad at the kid for that one because if you're going to see Star Wars, that's probably
it's got a Dirty Dozen feel to it.
yeah. I love the Dirty Dozen. Oh, the remake and
Yeah.
the original.
Like, I honestly don't hate Rogue One, and I think it's decent. But I just know Shadwell. There's nothing he hates more than at least that kind of movie, or at least the ending. He despises that movie, and I think his reasoning for it is really dumb.
Because everybody dies?
Yeah.
Oh, no spoilers.
I kinda. If you've seen the original New Hope, you know how it ends.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
not.
it's kind of like to me, it's a waste of time. I don't need to know how they die. You know, it was just tacked on. It's like, we have no idea. You know, it was just a money grab as far as I'm concerned.
It's like going to go see Passion of
The
Christ.
sequels were a money grab. Okay, Solo.
like-
Well, actually, no, I don't. I think Solo might have actually been good. I never watched it.
No,
So-
some
It wasn't
sequels
bad.
were absolutely
It wasn't
money
awful.
grab.
All right. This is where we're going to end up before, it gets any further into the weeds. Everybody out there, be excellent to each other and just ignore Jack and his Star Wars propaganda. Everybody have a good one.
But I almost never
Happy
bring it
trails,
up.
everybody.
It's